Bom, acredito que tem tempo para mais uma pergunta. Eu vou tentar juntar duas em uma aqui. O fato da economia, na época da crise analisada, ser mais simples em relação, por exemplo, a mercado financeiro, Wall Street, coisas do tipo, muda alguma coisa na análise em si ou não? E juntando então no fato da crise atual ter um credit crunch dessa magnitude, com essa complexidade na economia, como rebater então o argumento, por exemplo, de Chicago, de que primeiro é importante apagar o incêndio para depois tratar dos problemas estruturais, não deixar que o pânico primeiro se alastre.
All right. Well, this is like a whole seminar question. Okay, so the thing we have to put it out. Oh, yeah, does the change? I don't think it changes. I don't think it changes the basic contours of the analysis. The basic contours of the analysis are that fiscal stimulus is not, and there's more that could be said about fiscal stimulus, much more than I said just here today. That can't possibly help. It can't possibly be relevant. It can't possibly be anything other than impoverishing. And then secondly, with monetary expansion, if the basic contours of Austrian business cycle theory are correct, then it can't ever be good to, again, you're further distorting the market. And my view would be putting out the fire. I mean, frankly, what the market is trying to put out the fire. Greenspan and Bernanke are pouring gasoline on the fire. So and secondly, I would want to know, how do we prevent future fires when we put this one out with, not with water, but with giant quantities of cash? If that's how we put out fires, I think we're going to have a lot of arsonists on our hands in the future. So I think it's far better to just, and it's interesting, by the way, that AIG, one of the former CEOs of AIG said some months ago, you know, on reflection, it would have been better to let AIG go bankrupt. Even he said this, like he would know, wouldn't he? But yet people who said this at the time were crazy. You know, we're going to revert to caveman status, like everyone's going to be crawling around, pulling their women by the hair with clubs. And I was about to say that wouldn't be all bad, but that would just be a terrible joke. This is a terrible joke. No, I'm convinced that a lot of the argument for so-called systemic risk is overblown, that it's an argument that politicians like to use to scare people into doing basically whatever they want. The fact is that when you have a crisis like this, there's still the same amount of physical stuff in the world. That hasn't changed. It just needs to be repriced. And there are losses that will be suffered. You can't make losses go away. The Fed can write a check. That does not make losses go away. The losses are there. The question is on who should bear these losses? The general public or the people responsible for the losses? And it seems to me that this would go much further than any regulatory scheme you can dream up to solving our problem. And then, again, we have to bear in mind that the very central bank that Chicago would point to as an instrument for correcting the crisis itself encourages crises like these, not only because of its contribution to the business cycle, but because of the standing invitation to moral hazard that it represents. That everybody knows that there's no physical constraint on the central bank when it comes to bailouts. They can just print up the money, type it in on a computer, so people behave more recklessly. In 2008, the International Monetary Fund even said in a report that large financial institutions around the world seem to be relying excessively on the expectation that their central banks will come to their assistance. So this is the problem. When you have a problem like this that invites this type of situation, artificially cheap credit and bailout expectations that are semi-consistently fulfilled, you will have a system that, regardless of all the attempts to micro-regulate, is always going to lead you into grief. Instead of these micro-regulations, instead of trying to apply Scotch tape to a house of cards, we should get rid of the house of cards and build a house of brick, I think is the Austrian answer. Okay?
Tom, thank you very much.